Hi, welcome to the marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, some commodity traders warn proposed import restriction on rice and chicken could result in price hikes and food shortages.
Of the government to introduce restrictions in rice and chicken imports into the country as totally ill-timed, wrong, and unwarranted.
We'll get reaction to this from producers of rice and poultry products. Also coming up, about 850,000 Ghanaians pushed into poverty in 2022 as a result of inflation, according to the World Bank. Ahead, we examine how to effectively mitigate the impact of rising inflation.
Worrying because government has been working hard to actually bring people out of poverty. So such a news should be something that should be a concern for all.
My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Details coming up. Well, first up, the proposed import restrictions on rice and frozen chicken could result in food shortages and price hikes. That's a warning coming from some commodity traders. Now, government is set to restrict rice and frozen chicken imports by 40% in the coming months. The details of the program will be outlined in the media budget as government is working on a legislative instrument to back the move. John Awuni is one of the industry players and has been speaking to Joy Business.
I see the plan of the government to introduce restrictions in rice and chicken imports into the country as totally ill-timed, wrong, and unwarranted. As a researcher and one who has deeply been involved in the rice sector for well over 2 decades, I don't see pillars laid by the previous government nor this current government to warrant this action overnight. I see from the policy document of the government a complete business plan put together by one or two people for the benefit of a few at the expense of the ordinary Ghanaian. Indeed, let no one be deceived that this action is nationalistic and for that matter good. Currently, a bird of about 1.2 kilos is about 120 cedis, and this can hardly satisfy a family of about 6. The quest of the government to create the quota system for rice and chicken imports is a recipe for complete corruption, daylight robbery. Who does the allocation? And what is the person's interest against the collective interests of the nation? Players in the poultry sector are still filled with memories of happiness when we took same route in President Mahama's era. Quotas have never served the interests of any nation besides the individual interest. What we are going to see with the introduction of the quota system for rice and poultry imports is a sharp rise in the prices of these products, not because they will be sold in the market, but because players will pass the cost of bribes paid to those who will be granting these quotas to the consumer. So for those Ghanaians who are about to celebrate this policy, calling it very good and nationalistic, be prepared. Be ready to pay more for rice and chicken than you are currently doing.
John Awuni speaking earlier to Joy Business, joining us on Zoom, convener of the Rice Millers Association, Yaw Edupoko, and Management Committee Chairman of the Greater Kwawu Poultry Farmers Association, Kwame team. Thank you both for joining us. I'll begin with you, Mr. Edupoko. Are we ready for restrictions on import of rice by 40%? John Awuni does not think we are. He says it is ill-timed, wrong, and unwarranted.
When we come back,
this is what we
woman in Alabama. She called.
Can you hear me?
embrace it. We have the land, we have the resources, we have the people, and we are already. Our major challenge is how to get our rice into the market and be accepted. Nigeria has done it, we all saw it. And now Nigeria is gearing towards self-sustainability. Ghana is still a net importer. We start from the 40% and then we move upwards to 80 and 100%. So this is in the right direction.
It is in the right direction, you say. But one of the points Mr. Winnie makes is that there are not, foundations have not been laid by government in the rice and poultry sectors, for instance, production, processing, and marketing, to go ahead with this.
The point is that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one first step. If we don't start it today, we will never get there. So it is what we need to do. Ghana currently produces an excess of 1 million metric tons of paddy, which translates to 60-65% of milled rice. So our milling capacity is just about 400,000 metric tons. We are fortunate to have other investors coming in, like the Jospon Group, who wants to take this sector by storm, so that Ghana will very soon become self-sufficient in rice. If the government does not start putting these structures in place, we will never get there, because those who are importing the rice into the system and those who are exporting the rice into our system are very formidable foes. We are not capable of fighting them. But with the government intervention, it is possible. And so I say,
I want to bring in Kwame Intim, who is the management committee chairman of the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association. And I also would want to find out from you if you think the poultry sector is ready for restrictions on import. Government intends to cut them down by 40%. You are muted. If you could unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, that is great news. So we want to say that this is good news for us, and it is a much awaited information. But we have heard this not the first time. The past government, the present one, we have heard this information or news severally. The question is this. We believe that COVID-19 came to teach nations some lessons. The lessons that every nation, and as much as you have the resources and capability to produce everything your citizenry, your population needs, you must do that without fail, without a second thought. So, and this is food. We are talking about food, a priority in the life of man. So this is good news, not to only poultry farmers, but to the entire populace or people of Ghana. But our concern here right now is the 40% ban at a go. If we don't take care, this will produce a counter effect that the government, we are yielding for this opportunity. We have always been calling for a ban on importation of dry chicken, and yet when we were given the opportunity, we couldn't meet the demands of the nation, of the people. And that is where the issue is.
Exactly, because yeah, I know that the poultry sector has faced several challenges in the past few years. And so the question is, do you have capacity right now to meet national demand?
We have the capacity to produce or to meet all the poultry needs of the country, the entire country. We have the capacity to produce all the chicken or the protein needs from chicken source of the total Ghana or the total country. But the implementation is where I am offering that care should be taken. That if the government wants to stop importation by 40% or at a go, it may create some problem, because we would not be ready right now. We must put structures in place. And the most important area is feeding. The cost of feed, which is about 90% of this poultry production, is a major issue right now. We will not have the maize, the soya bean to meet this new population of birds who have to bring in or expand our farms to take care of the 40% at a go. We have the structures, but feeding the birds will be the challenge right now. Getting the maize, we don't have the maize right now to meet this population of new birds that will be coming to meet the 40% percentage band. So that is where the challenge is. I suggest or believe that we could start by maybe 20%, half of what the government proposes right now, so that we make sure we have the feed out there. Farmers are planting the maize, the soya bean, or other ingredients that go into the manufacture of poultry feed are in place before we say we are stopping importation by 40% at a go.
So
that is where the challenge is.
Realistically speaking, 40% may not work for the poultry sector. If we still have Mr. Edupoku on, you're sharing some figures. Is he on? Yeah, you're sharing some figures, production figures. I don't think I caught that. But John Awuni, who is also former president of the Rice Interprofessional Body, said in that interview that we didn't even have figures to support claims that we could produce locally to meet national demand. What do you have to say to that?
You asking me?
Yes.
I think my brother needs to look at his program well. We are capable. I won't even say capable. As we stand now, we are ready and we can even do 50%, given the opportunity. The major challenge that we face is that the import is a bit on the lower end as to the locally made one. That is the difference that we need to bridge. And we are getting there. But because the imports are everywhere, nobody even take their time to look at the local rice. And we saw it happen in Nigeria. Nigeria, nobody was eating local rice. But when the government decided to close the borders, overnight, people bought the local rice. And within 3-4 months, rice was gone. And you know what? This was about some 4 years back. Now Nigeria is 80% self-sufficient. They want to do that by the end of the 2 years, 100%, and start exporting. So if we give ourselves the excuses that we are not ready, I heard my brother talking from the poultry end. I don't agree with you. When are we going to be ready? The poultry end, we have the land to do the maize. We have the land to do the soy. As I'm talking to you, 98% of soya beans are exported to India because we are not capable of processing it. This is why we are importing.
Well, I think the point that he makes is that it should be like a gradual process, like 20% to start with. He didn't think 40% was feasible.
It's a matter of taste. As I'm talking to you, you hear the school children don't have food, but there is enough rice in the system to feed the school children. It is a matter of finance. It's financing that is keeping the school children from getting their food to eat, because nobody wants to give food on credit and then wait for 1 year or 2 years to be paid, because interest will swallow you up. These are the challenges that we have to look at. Now, if there is funding available, I can tell you that overnight, same time next week, you will hear that every school has enough rice and enough maize in it. That is what.
So that leads me to my next question. We have just about a minute. So what level of investment should be made by the government? What should they be doing right now to attain this goal?
Of course, the agri sector is the largest employer. We need to resource the agri ministry and then the value chain to be able to deliver to the country so that we stop being net importers of tomatoes and onion and poultry and rice. That entails in the billions of dollars. But when it is done, you will see massive job creation in the system overnight, and you see that food will be available as we are speaking. It is basically the aspect. We, those in the private sector who have gone into it, we invest. When we give to government, we have problem collecting our money back, and the banks, markets are not credible for facility. This is the situation we are facing. I have given to buffer stock 2 years down the line. I'm waiting. I understand. You see what I mean? But will the bank understand this situation? This phenomenon will not be countenanced by the banks. This is where
Okay.
we have the hiccup. We need to work on these things. As to Ghana being able to feed itself on rice, I am assuring you that come next season, which is November, December, we will have more than enough rice in the system, which will not make it interesting for us to import. So
All
the
right.
40% to me.
All right, that's exciting to hear. Last word, Mr. Kwame and team.
Yes.
So is feed the major challenge for the poultry sector right now? Is that what it is?
Exactly. That is what I mean. I am never saying that we don't have the capacity to do this. We have more than the capacity and ability to feed the population of Ghana with all poultry needs, the meat and the eggs. But the challenge right now is the feed, the cost of producing the feed, the cost of bringing the day-old chick. Because of the tax components on it, we're spending just about 8 cedis to bring in a day-old chick. Now it's about 21, 24 cedis. You see, the cost of all drugs and vaccines, because of import taxes on them, are so high. And if you come to the feed, that is where the problem is.
All right.
So if we surely should be projecting or thinking, planning that Ghana in 3-4 years maybe should be self-sufficient in poultry production. And that's what we are saying. If it is today, which is not possible, we are capable of producing all the poultry the country needs. But as to whether we are ready as a nation, the farmers are ready. You need money to go in. You go to the bank, you may not get it. The interest rate is so high, but we'll try to find our own means of funding. But the cost of producing one bird, will be so high because the cost of feed is high. The maize is not there. The soya bean, my brother said, is exported. Do we have the capacity to convert it into the manufactured form? We don't have that many firms here. And though that I can tell you, about 80% of the soya bean meal we use in the poultry feed production is all imported. You see, so until we put these structures in place, and we say today we are stopping poultry importation by 40%, will bring problems right now. We need to make sure all the value chain, the processes and the processes involved, from the farmer planting the maize, the soybean, through the transporting to the processing point to the last mile consumer, are all streamlined, coordinated, and structured. So do we can be sure that we are ready to stop 40% today.
Thank you so much, Kwame Tim. We've got to go. Management Committee Chairman of the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association. Also, earlier you heard Yaudu Poku, who is convener of the Rice Millers Association. Thank you both for your time. Well, let's turn to some news that has been topical in the last few hours. About 850,000 Ghanaians have been pushed into poverty in 2022 as a result of inflation. Statistics captured by the World Bank reveal that high inflation and low growth have had a toll on the vulnerable segments of the population. According to the Bretton Woods Institution, food insecurity worsened by the last quarter of 2022 when inflation was at its peak. Take a listen to this report filed by my colleague Pius Kojibaka, and then we'll have a discussion.
According to the World Bank Group's 7th Ghana Economic Update, inflation in 2022 pushed 850,000 individuals into poverty while contributing to putting nearly a quarter of all households at stressed levels of food insecurity and roughly 823,000 people at crisis or emergency levels of food insecurity. According to the Bretton Woods Institution, it is unclear when the global pressure on prices will fall, and thus it is primarily incumbent upon the government of Ghana to take measures to protect the poorest and vulnerable who have been heavily impacted from inflation. Economist with the World Bank, Kwabena Jan Kwache, described the issue as worrying.
It's quite worrying because government has been working hard to actually bring people out of poverty. So such a news should be something that should be a concern for all. But of course, we know that there are efforts that government has been making already. For example, If you remember in the presentation, that we said that government had already doubled LEAP benefits. So that's one way that, for example, the government is, and there are many more social protection programs that the government is actually putting up to be able to bring people out of the poverty.
Let's bring in Professor Williams Pipra, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University. Good afternoon to you, Prof. Your thoughts, first of all, on this report by the World Bank suggesting 850,000 Ghanaians have been pushed into poverty as a result of inflation over the past year. How worrying is this?
Good afternoon, Daryl. Daryl, this is very alarming. It means that about 850,000 Ghanaians are living below.
Okay. We just seem to have lost Professor Williams Pipra there, reacting to that World Bank report, suggesting that 850,000 Ghanaians have been pushed into poverty. I hear you're back because of high inflation. You're reacting to this, telling us how worrying this is, Prof.
It's a major issue in Ghana. We know that inflation is really affecting a lot of people. The way inflation started in Ghana started from the supply side, when we noticed the Bank of Ghana were monetarizing or giving overdraft or printing a lot of money into the system. But currently, what we have noticed is also the cost push factor. A lot of raw material increases prices is really a major factor for manufacturers or producers. High taxation is one of the major reasons why we are also seeing the inflation happening. In our way to address them and have inflation reduced, we've noticed the Bank of Ghana using the monetary policy rate, that is by increasing it to slow down the supply of, to reduce the supply of money in the system. What is left for us to do as a country is to look at how do we control.
It doesn't appear we have a good connection to Professor Williams Pipra, so we'll try and get him back on, but let's bring you this story. Are you back, Prof? I don't think so. Well, Anglo Gold Ashanti is contributing to ending period poverty in the Obuasi municipality by investing in resources to manage menstruation. The implementation of the company's 10,000 sanitary pads to schools initiative is to help attain 100% participation of girls in education. There is more in this report.
For the past 2 years, 14-year-old Enima Amponsa Apia has been starving to buy sanitary pads during menstruation. Although she lives with her father, she is shy to tell him she had started menstruating.
I stay with only my father, so when it comes to me buying sanitary pads, I feel shy asking him for money. So I starve myself in order to get money to buy the sanitary pad.
Girls in selected schools in the Obuasi municipality received 5 packs of sanitary pads each from Anglo Gold Ashanti. Enima, a final year student of the Union Methodist Junior High School, applauded the gesture of the gold mining company.
When these sanitary pads came in hand, I think I don't have to starve myself to get money to buy it again. I would like to say thank you to Anglo Gold Ashanti for bringing us these sanitary pads.
In 2020 and 2021, 86 and 96% respectively of girls participated in the Basic Education Certificate examination. The campaign of distributing 10,000 pads in Obuasi began after the municipality recorded a decline in the participation of girls in education. The initiative, which began in May this year, has witnessed 100% participation of the girls in the BECE. This significant improvement has been attributed to a number of policies rolled out to keep the girls in school. Cecilia Salifu is Municipal Coordinator for Girl Child Education, Obuasi Municipality.
It's a very useful course they have taken, because municipal girls, municipal education, some years ago we were having problem with enrollment of girls or girls staying in school to learn because of menstruation. When they menstruate, they start to sit at home. So the 7 days or the 5 days is done before they come. But this one is going to go a long way to help them to come to school and to stay in school and to improve performance in their education.
The power distribution program forms part of the health pillar of the company's 10-year socio-economic development plan. Students were educated on menstrual hygiene management and breaking down the barriers of stigma and shame. According to the Social Development and Gender Superintendent of AGA, Mavis Nanayache, the company is committed to end period stigma and poverty.
Because of the results we are having, we are hoping to continue this intervention, but by looking at alternative means of having sustainable.
All right, and that's our program. Thanks for watching, everyone. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Indom secures Supreme Court ruling in quest to reclaim GN Bank from the state. You can read more about that on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. It's goodbye. We'll see you same time tomorrow.